What's up, guys? Tonight I'm making a YouTube video on Tabletop Simulator, specifically for the board game Nemesis. My wife's out of town, the baby's asleep, and I have not much else better to do with my life. Tonight's snack is Wonderful Pistachios, the jalapeno lime flavor. These are delicious. And board game night is alone tonight because Nemesis can be played solo, and it's not as depressing as it sounds because Nemesis is a really fun game, so let's get into it. First off, if you don't have Nemesis, you can, if you have Tabletop Simulator, you can find it just by Googling the Nemesis Tabletop Simulator mod. There's a couple of them out there, so I'm going to pull into the workshop. This is probably the one you're going to find on your first Google, but if you want to be more descriptive in your Google search, type in custom mod in parentheses. There's two mods, and the custom mod is what I'm going to be using, and it is a lot better in my opinion. It has way more customization, and that's the one I'm going to load in now. So this is what the custom mod version looks like. The base version, I'll call it, looks very similar, and the setup is pretty similar too. But you can see over here on the left, if you already have the other one, there's more customization, and I'll try to touch on those things as I get into them. So for the setup, I'm just going to do a vanilla game, so just normal. I'm playing solo, so I need to select solo/co-op mode. And I'm going to do the base intruders and keep everything else normal. So zooming in here, there's a lot of different options you can do on this version of the mod. I'm just going to do base characters. Part of this video is going to be kind of explaining how to play the game, as well as doing a solo playthrough and just showing you how that might play out. So I'm just going to hit confirm as it is right now. And Tabletop does all the setup for you. It's all scripted into the mod. So the board will be set up when I select the player count, and since I'm doing solo, I'm going to just do 1. So you can see it places all the room tiles randomly, it places the tokens on top, all the engines are randomized, the coordinates card is randomized, and it has the trackers in their right spots, as well as the correct number of escape pods. All the decks are placed up here. So now we're in the character draft phase. I have to move my pistachios out of the way. So when you're drafting your character, you want to keep the objectives that you got dealt in mind. So you're always dealt 2 of them, and in a solo mode, one of these are going to be what you need to commit to. And the object of the game is to complete your objective, whatever one you chose, and you choose one when the first alien gets on the board. So typically you start a game trying to make progress against both objectives if you can, and then when that first alien comes on the board, you're going to need to discard one of these and commit to it. So let's take a look at the objectives first before choosing a character. So the first one is special delivery. Finish the game in an escape pod or hibernation with an intruder egg object. So there's 3 different kinds of heavy objects in this game. The intruder egg is one of them. You can find those in the nest, so we need to find the nest room for this objective. And I'll touch more on some of this stuff later as it comes up. And no man left behind. Send the signal, and all rooms on the ship must be explored. So setting the signal is in the comms room. We need to find the comms room, and we need to explore all the rooms on the ship. Now I can already tell that I'm probably going to end up going with this other one because exploring all the rooms on the ship in a solo game is pretty difficult. So moving on to the character draft portion then. So I get to choose between, and like I said, this is, you would normally manually draw some character draft cards from this pile here, for example, and you would do this more manually, but because this is all scripted, it gave me the purple or green option. So I can choose any characters in the purple category, shown here, or in the green category, shown here. And I'm going to stick to the vanilla characters, so really my options are Scout or Pilot. Those are the 2 base characters. And I'm going to go with the Scout. So I'm going to choose Scout here, and then hit confirm. You can see it lays out all your character specific stuff too. I'm going to move this over so I can see both objectives later. It deals out your board, your gun with the amount of ammo that it starts with, your 2 quest items that you can unlock during the game if you fulfill the text on the back. So for example, this one's discard energy charge, which is an item you can find in a room after you search it. And then What's not in the vanilla version, this is actually part of an expansion that came out, but it's dealt into the base game on this tabletop mod. You can choose to just ignore this if you want to stick to the vanilla rules, but the Aftermath expansion introduced traits for each character. So I'm curious, because I don't remember offhand what this is for the scout. When you perform a search action in any white room, draw one item from each item deck, red, green, and yellow. Pick one and discard the other two. So that's just a better version of the normal search card, and you'll see how that works later on. So I'm just going to get started and explain things as I go. So I'm going to hit start. And the start of each round, typically you would move the first player token to the next player. In this case, I'm playing alone, so as well as this step is skipped in the first turn of the game, because the first player will start with it and keep it for the first round. Afterwards, it'll move after each phase of the game. And then you would draw up to a maximum of 5 cards. And I say that because you can have cards left over from the previous round. So if I had 2 cards left over from the previous round, for example, you would draw 3 cards for a total of 5 in the new round. So since it's the first round of the game, I'm getting my 5 cards off the bat. And you'll be spending these cards in different ways. You can spend them to either do the action on the card itself, or you can spend them to do other actions as the cost of doing that other action. And you'll see what those types of action options are, and I'll get into them some more later. So usually at the start of the game, exploring the ship is what you do. So for each turn, each round, when it comes back to you, you get to do 2 actions, and it doesn't matter what the cost of those actions are. If you can afford to do 2, then you can do 2. If you don't want to do 2, or you can only afford to do 1, or simply don't want to do any actions and pass, whenever you pass, you must pass for the rest of the play round. So let's say you still had cards in your hand, but you for some reason wanted to pass or were forced to pass, then the players around you are going to keep taking turns until everyone has passed. So it's the start of the game. I'm going to take my 2 actions, and I'm going to select from the basic actions, and those are shown on the character board here on the left. You can see that they have a cost of 1 with the exception of the careful movement at the bottom. So I'm going to do a pick up heavy object as my first action, and that costs 1. So I'm going to discard rest because this card is not useful to me right now. So I'm going to instead use it as the cost to pay for something else. And I'm going to pick up this blue character corpse and put it in one of my hand slots. So we talked about Intruder Egg before, as it's one of my objectives. Another heavy object is a blue character corpse, or just a character corpse. The blue character corpse just happens to be the corpse that starts in the hibernation chamber in the same room as you at the start of the game. All other character corpses can come up when characters die. So I'm playing alone. This is going to be the only character corpse that's useful to me. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it up. And then the last heavy object is a intruder carcass, which is marked by these tokens here. Whenever you kill an intruder, other than a larva, other than a little baby, they leave a carcass behind, and you can pick that up as well. Keep in mind you only have 2 hand slots. So I just filled up my last hand slot. The other one already has my gun in it, and now my other hand slot has a corpse in it. And what you can do with those objects is, if you find the laboratory room, you can search, or you can analyze that whatever object you brought in to flip over the corresponding weakness. So let's say, if I manage to find the lab, I have a character corpse in my hand, we can flip this over, and generally these kind of nerf the aliens a little bit. Alright, so I picked up the heavy object, and now I'm going to do another basic action, which is just to move. So that costs 1 card as well. I'm going to move to this room. And whenever you're exploring a room for the first time, you flip over the room and its exploration token, and then resolve the token. So every exploration token has 2 things on it, a number and some kind of symbol that represents an effect. In a solo mode, well, let me start by saying that the number is how many items are in the room under normal circumstances. So I would set the room counter here, and you set the room counter by looking for your little arrow token here, arrow pointer, and rotate the tile so that the number of items in the room matches what was on the exploration tile, showing that there is now one item that you can find in this room. Like I was saying, in a solo mode, if this number was greater than 1, you'd actually have to reduce it by half and round up. So, in this case, reducing 1 by half is half, rounding up back up to 1. If this number was a 3, you would divide that by 2, it's 1.5, round up, you would set the item counter to 2. If you're playing in a multiplayer game, it's much easier, you just set it to the number on the tile. So the second part of the token is the effect, which in this case it means that a door shuts behind me in the direction I came from. So I came from this direction because I started in the middle room, and a door has shut behind me, and you cannot walk through closed doors. They must be either destroyed or opened using an item before you can walk through it. And whenever you're moving, you must move through a corridor to an adjacent room. And also whenever you move, you must roll for noise. So this is the noise die. I have done a standard movement, which means I must roll for noise. So I'm going to roll, and I got a silence, which is really good for, especially in the beginning of the game, but in any case it's good. Because that means I don't need to place noise in any corridor. If this was any number, let's say for example this rolled as a 1, I would have to place a noise marker in the corridor labeled 1 that is connected to my room. But the X symbol means silence. I have not made any noise. The other option you can have for moving is careful movement, and I'll highlight that on the board here at the bottom left. So you can see that that costs 2 cards out of your hand. So it's a more expensive form of movement, but you can, instead of rolling for noise, you can place a noise marker in a corridor of your choosing. So, for example, if I just put up a hypothetical scenario here, I wanted to move to this room, it's probably in my best interest to carefully move here and place my noise here. And that's because whenever you have to place noise, like for example from a noise roll, pretty much that is the only example is from a noise roll, you have to, if you have to place a second token in a spot that already has one, then an alien shows up and you have to resolve what's called an encounter in this game. So we don't want that. I'll explain how that works when we actually get to one. So in a normal game that's not solo, I would then be done with my turn and it would go to the next player because I've done 2 actions. I did a pick up heavy object action, and then I moved to this room. So now the next player would go until, and over again until all players have passed. So obviously it's going to be right back to me because I'm playing by myself. So I know there's one item in this room, so this is a good opportunity to explain how you search a room. So because there's an item in this room and because I have the search card, and I'll zoom in on it quick. I don't know why my Alt key isn't working. Okay, there we go. Reduce item counter by 1. Draw 2 cards of the same color as the room you are in. Pick one and discard the other. So I'm going to use search to do that. So I'm going to reduce the item counter by 1. Now there are 0 items left in this room. And I'm going to pick 2 cards from the corresponding room color. So in this case, this is a yellow room. All right. For some reason, it's this mod, you can't just pull into your hand as easily as the base mod that I showed you before. So what I like to do in this version is just do a deal action. Pretty sure this deals only to yourself, so I'm just gonna go ahead. I mean, I'm playing solo, so it doesn't matter, but hopefully that doesn't cause a mistake in one of your future games. So the 2 options I got out of the yellow deck are the technical corridors plans, which can let me essentially travel through the vents, and I'll explain that in a second, or a fire extinguisher, which helps me extinguish fires that might come up on the ship, as well as I could shoot it at an alien to just make it retreat. So technical corridors are a different kind of corridor, and they're essentially the ship's ventilation system. So let's say I moved into this room here and I rolled a 1 or a 2. I would have to place my noise in the technical corridor spot, which is actually this big red circle here. So if I rolled a 1 or a 2, I'd place noise here. And what's not so fun about the technical corridor spot is that you can see there's a lot of rooms that have a technical corridor's entrance, and therefore it's very common for the technical corridor space, which is shared for each of these rooms, to summon aliens by making noise in that technical corridor. So this card lets me travel through technical corridors. For example, if I was in this room, I could essentially fast travel to any other room with the technical corridor's entrance, essentially going across the ship. So that is a nice card, which might help for my objective of exploring the ship, but I do still think that that's going to be difficult, and I'm going to probably go all in here for the intruder egg. And I'm going to play for survival here, and the fire extinguisher is nice, especially in a solo mode, for survivability, and the technical corridors plans isn't so important, so, or at least I don't think so. So I'm going to, whatever item you don't choose using a search action goes to the bottom of the deck. It's not discarded. So I'm going to pick up this deck, put it back on the bottom, and then place it back. Hey, so I had to come back and edit this video adding this clip because I made a mistake when choosing the fire extinguisher. I did not place it in one of my hand slots. It is a heavy item, similar to the heavy objects in this game, like the egg, the corpse, which is currently in my hand, and a carcass. So just like those would fill a hand slot if you want to pick them up, heavy items must fill a hand slot when you search and choose to keep a heavy item. A fire extinguisher is a heavy item, and you can tell it's a heavy item, just like your gun, by a little hand symbol holding a handle, kind of like it's, you know, holding a briefcase or something. So when I chose the fire extinguisher, I should have dropped my corpse object out of my hand and replaced it with this fire extinguisher. I should not have been able to hold onto it in my hand the way I do, unfortunately, for the remainder of the game until I use it. So unfortunately, this game has an asterisk on it. I did later end up using the fire extinguisher to make an alien run away, and I should not have been able to do that because later I pick up an egg, and therefore my two hand slots should have been full for the entire game, and my fire extinguisher should have been in my hand. So just wanted to highlight that because it is a rule of the game, and it helps explain what heavy items are, and to keep that in mind whenever you're searching, that you must, if you choose to keep a heavy item, that it must fill up a hand slot. So that would have been my first action of my second round, let's say, and now I have another action. Let's see what Scout Scavenging does. Reduce item counter by 1. You can perform this action even if the item counter is 0. Draw 2 cards of the same color. So I just searched, so I'm not too keen on using that yet. Move to any neighboring room without making a noise roll. Okay, so I do like that. I'm going to do that just so that keep noise to a minimum at the start of the game, because this game is really heavily based on luck, and a lot of times I play, first roll I get is like a danger roll, which puts noise everywhere. So I am going to use that scavenging card, reconnaissance card. And so in this case, I'm actually using the card for its effect. I'm not spending it to do another action. So when you're using a card for the text that's on the card itself, you need to pay an additional cost that's inside of the box here. So going back to the search card, I use the search card to search that room, and it has no additional cost, so I just had to spend the search card. In this case, I'm doing reconnaissance to do what's on this card, and I need to pay 1 additional, so now scavenging must also be sacrificed for the reconnaissance action, which was to move to a neighboring room without making a noise roll. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to head here. We found the comms room, and I am slimed. So this is a different kind of effect that can be on the token. So we're going to discard the token here. We're going to set the room counter. So that was a number 3. So we cut that in half and round up. It ends up being a 2. So there's 2 items in this room. So there's a pointer set to 2. And I am slimed. And when you're slimed, there's a spot on your character board for the slime marker. You can put one of these red tokens on there to indicate that you're slimed. And what's bad about slime is, remember how I rolled a silence in the beginning of the game? What's bad about the slime marker is that you actually instead treat silence rolls as, I'm really struggling here, you treat silence rolls as a danger roll. So there's a claw symbol on here that I'm really struggling to get to. So you can see it. geez. Okay, so this claw symbol here, I'll just zoom in. Whenever you roll one of those on a noise roll, let's say pretend I rolled that symbol going into here. You actually have to place noise in every corridor. Well, first, actually, if there are any aliens or intruders in rooms adjacent to you through corridors, any and all of them come to you. So in this case, none of them are here. But had I rolled the danger roll, in this case, with no aliens adjacent to me, then what you do is you add noise to every corridor adjacent to this room. So the slime really sucks because now that I'm slimed, essentially there's double the chances on the dice for me to have to do what I just explained, because now the silence is treated as the danger symbol. Alright, so moving on, I'm now out of cards, and so that means I must pass. Typically, if you're playing in a multiple player game, you would flip this card over to indicate that you've passed. But I'm not going to bother doing that because I'm the only one that cares. So once the player phase is ended, everybody's passed, then you move on to the event phase. So I'm going to zoom in on that, and that's resolved in the following steps. You move the time track, so you move this. This is essentially the game's timeline. Once it reaches this red space, the game ends. So you must have fulfilled your objective as well as gotten off the ship or hibernated in time before the ship takes off. When the ship does take off, if you're not hibernated or off the ship, you will die from the massive G-force of the jump. The ship will only do the hyper jump if 2 of the 3 engines are working, and you can check their status once you're in any respective engine room. So at some point, I will want to likely check these. And then when it does take off, assuming 2 engines are working, then it's heading to whatever the coordinates card is set to. In most cases, you want this to be saying that the ship is going to Earth. So there's essentially 4 different options on every card, and the game always starts with the coordinates marker on the B space. So if Earth is B on this card right now, we would head to Earth. If it's, if Mars is B, we'd be heading to Mars. So there's things you need to do to ensure your survival, but as well as complete your objective to actually win the game. So if you had hibernated, 2 engines are working, the ship is going to Earth, then you are likely to survive. There's one kind of last stand mechanic that the game has to still try and kill you, and that's based on if you've accumulated a lot of contamination cards, which might kill you at the end of the game, and I'll explain that later. The other option of getting off the ship, which in my opinion is the safer way to ensure your survival, because it does not matter whether or not the coordinates are set to the right spot or if any engines are working, you can get into an escape pod. So the escape pods start locked, but there's different game mechanics that unlock them, and there's rooms that you can find that can, when you're in that room, you can try to enter an escape pod, and if you do successfully enter, you can eject from the ship immediately, and you're safe from any game effects, as well as the ship exploding and killing you while you're on it. So that's why I believe it's a safer option, because if you did hibernate, for example, and 2 engines are not working, then the ship automatically explodes on the spot, and anybody in the hibernation chamber dies. So you're not safe by hibernating, or at least you're not as safe as you would be if you took an escape pod, because you're protected from that explosion. There are other ways that the ship can explode. For example, there are 8 fire tokens and 8 malfunction tokens that come with the game. If these accumulate on the board too much, such that you've placed all of them and you need to place a 9th of either, the ship explodes immediately. And anybody on it, including in the hibernation chamber, dies. The last way that the ship can explode is from the auto-destruct sequence. There is a yellow room in this game called the generator room. In that room you can manually start the auto-destruct sequence, or there's certain event cards that might start it against your will. So when the auto-destruct sequence is started, you put a new time tracker on this space of the self-destruct sequence track, and if it ever crosses this threshold between 4 and 3, all escape pods unlock, and the self-destruct can no longer be deactivated. So if it ever crosses this threshold, your only chance of survival is to get off via an escape pod, or you will die from the ship. The hibernation chamber is no good to you anymore at that point. Okay, so back to the event phase. So let's zoom in on our help card here. We move the time track. The next step is intruder attack. This applies to any rooms where there is a character and an intruder, so we get to skip this step. There's no intruder attacking me. Fire damage in this phase, in the event phase, is for the intruders only. So if there's any intruders in the same room as fire, they take 1 damage from the fire, so we get to skip this step. Characters take damage from fire, or the players take damage from fire in the player phase whenever they are in a room on fire and have taken their second action and the turn has moved on to the next player and they're still in that room, they take a light wound. And I'll explain wounds in a little bit if I ever get a wound, because I want to just keep the gameplay going. So we're skipping the fire damage step of the event phase. The next step is to resolve an event card. So this is the event deck. We're going to resolve an event card by drawing one from the top, flipping it over, and these are always resolved in 2 steps. The first is intruder movement, signified by this top row here. So in this case, all the intruders of the corresponding symbols, in this case a creeper, a breeder, and a queen, would all move through corridor 1. So any creepers, breeders, or queens on the board would all move through corridor 1. Because there are no intruders on the board, we get to skip this step. And then we would move on to the effect. So I'm going to finish this and then I'll just go visit the symbols really quick. So in this case, it's called Eclosion. Each character with a larva on their character board dies. Place a creeper in their room. Every character draws 4 cards from their deck and scans all drawn contamination cards. If they have at least 1 infected card, put a larva on their character board. Discard drawn cards. So I suppose I should explain what a larva on your board even means in the first place. So when an intruder, or perhaps it makes sense to explain the types of intruders. So we already saw the creeper symbol on that card. We saw the breeder symbol. The queen token is actually already in the intruder bag, which is essentially how all the aliens in this game that are in the vents lurking, we're going to be pulling from this bag to see what might join us on ship. So the queen is in here. This is the most common token, or there's the most of this token in most games. This is the adult token, and then there's a larva token, and that's relevant to this event card. Now, when larvas attack any players, they don't do any injuries, they actually infest the player. So in that case, that's when a larva, if you're attacked by one, you put a larva on your character board, which signifies that one has infested you. And you also draw a contamination card when a larva infests you, and contamination cards, whenever drawn, always go into your discard pile. Okay, so long story short, we get to skip this because there is not a larva on my character board. If you ever have to place a second larva on your character board, you die, so you don't want that. We do still need to actually resolve the... Sorry, we're not skipping this at all. Each character with a larva on their character board dies, so of course I'm not dead. But then every character draws 4 cards from their deck and scans all drawn contamination cards. So I already know I don't have any contamination cards, but we still need to go through the motions of drawing 4 cards and discarding them, because that's what the card says, the event card. So we've resolved the event card, and now the last step is the intruder bag development. So this is essentially where things can escalate quickly. The worst thing to draw in this is an adult or breeder token. But I'm going to zoom in on the help card to show what happens based on what you draw. So in the intruder bag development step, all you do is you pull a random token and then do what this help card says to do. So in this case, we drew a larva, so we remove this token from the intruder bag and add 1 adult intruder to the intruder bag. So we're going to remove this, put it in there, and we're going to add an adult. And that's it. So that's the end of the event phase. It would be the start of a new player phase, so the first player token would move to the next player, so I'm just going to keep it, of course. And then we draw up to a maximum of 5 cards again. So there's 1. So I've run out of cards from my draw pile, so I'm going to flip over my discard pile, and it's going to shuffle it, and it's going to form my new draw pile. So let's do another. Now the pull is working. I guess it only... I guess it only works when it feels like it. So we're just going to keep doing the right click and draw option to get to our 5 cards. Accidentally rotated the board here. All right, so quickly while I'm seeing this item cards are, if you want them to be secret, you can keep them secret. So you can keep them in your hand. No one else needs to know. Of course, your cards are secret. No one else needs to know what items you've been picking up. And then when you're doing secret checks, like for example, if I'm checking an engine and I choose to leave it alone or fix it, I may choose to disclose what I saw. And I'm totally eligible to just lie. So I can just lie, you know, for example, some objective cards are bad. In a solo game, you're never going to see a bad objective. But some objectives in a multiplayer game could be, for example, you know, one other player must die by the end of this game for you to win. And so I might, in that case, purposefully either mess with the engines or start the self-destruct sequence. So there's definitely a test of trust as far as playing this game with your friends, and that's kind of why I love this game. So I drew my 5 cards, so let's continue to play. So I got slimed over here, I just realized on the effect, but I never rolled for noise, so let's make sure I do that, because oh, of course. Okay, so that's karma for taking so long to like play the game by the rules. I did come back and remember, but that's unfortunate. So I rolled an X, which means since I'm slimed, that it's resolved as a danger. So like I explained before, there's no aliens adjacent to me, so I'm just going to fill every corridor with noise. Okay, now we're starting the new phase. Okay, so let's see, are there any items in this room? There are 2, so I'm going to use search while I'm here to search this room, reduce the item counter, 2 yellow items. Again, okay, because this fire extinguisher was already in my hand. So I get to choose between duct tape, which has those options on it. You can pause the video if you want to take a read. And then tools. So these 2 are these are both very similar. I'm going to use the duct tape. So I'm putting my unchosen item back. And then, let's see, do I want to use the scavenging card this time? Sure, let's farm up some items. So scavenging costs me an additional, so reduce item counter by 1. You can perform this action even if the item counter is to draw 2 cards of the same color of this room's color. Pick one, discard the other. So I'm going to discard this as my additional card cost. So another 2 yellow items. I'm going to move my drawn ones over here. Deal. Okay, so we got tools again and energy charge. So let me remind myself what was on here. Discard energy charge to activate this item, and activate this item in the cockpit for my other one. So motion scanner, let's see what motion scanner does for me. Discard 1 action card from your hand to re-roll the result of your noise roll only once per noise roll. Okay, that looks really good. So I'm going to keep the energy charge. And then I'm going to use, or I'm going to actually unlock this quest item. So let me reset it back. So you can see quest item activation has a cost of 1. So I just discarded a card to pay the cost, and now this says that I need to discard energy charge. So I must also discard energy charge. And now this is activated. So when you're ever flipping something, you can hit F. And then an E or Q on your keyboard is how you can rotate something, just FYI. So that'll be nice to have later. And I think I'm going to just pass. Even though I have another card, I could afford to move, for example. But I think I'm going to pass because when you do have to resolve an encounter, let's say I had to roll for noise and I had to place a second token on this space, then an alien shows up in your room and it could surprise attack you, and that's based on how many cards you have in your hand. So I'm going to choose a random token here. So let's say if I did do an encounter, when that happens, you have to pull an alien token from the bag, and that's what alien's going to be joining you in that room. So let's say I pulled this token from the bag. On the back is a number, and if the cards on your hand are less than that number, it successfully surprise attacks you. So larvas all have a number 1 on their back. I believe creepers do as well. So by passing, I'm essentially protecting myself in the event I need to roll for noise in the event phase from a larva surprise attack, as well as I would like to keep this card into the next round. So with that pass, then we go into the event phase. So I'm going to move a little faster now to, in the interest of time. So move time track. There's no intruders attacking, no fire damaging intruders, resolve event card. Okay, nothing is moving because nothing's on the board. Coolant leak. Okay, this one's nice because we cannot resolve it. If there's a malfunction marker in the generator room, start the self-destruct countdown. So this is an event that could force you to start the self-destruct. Remove this event from the game and reshuffle the events deck, including the discard pile. So I'm just going to toss that over there. Reshuffle. So we didn't find the the generator room. So we get to essentially skip that and remove it from the deck and not have to worry about it if we do find the generator room. Okay, so that was the event, and now it's intruder bag development. So let's pull a token from the bag, and it's another larva. So just like last time, we're gonna remove that token from the bag and add an adult. So now there's just adult tokens are piling up in this bag. And that's it. So we're going to draw cards up to a max of 5. So in this example, I had 1 from the last round, so I'm only going to draw 4 here. So I have my total of 5. Let's see. So I used reconnaissance and I didn't reduce the item counter, so I'm going to do that. So there are no items in this room. So let's see. Or no, it was the scavenger item that I used there. So let's see, move to a neighboring room without making a noise roll. I like that because noise is kind of all around me right now. Let's see what adrenaline does. Perform a shoot action and draw an action card. Perform an escape movement. So neither of those are relevant to me right now. And neither is the search card because I can't search this room. So I'm going to use reconnaissance and spend my search card as my additional cost. Move to a neighboring room without making a noise roll. So I'm going to move to here and not roll for noise. Wait, hold on. I might need to backtrack here. Is one of these send the signal? Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that we're going to go for the intruder egg. I already spent my cards. I could have sent the signal in this room by spending 2 cards to do the room action. So that's another type of action that you can take in this game. Pretty much, if not all, I'm pretty sure all room actions cost 2 cards from your hand, and you can do that room's action, and you can get a summary of what each room does in more detail on this cheat sheet over here on the left, because what's on the card is very vague. In this case, this is all you need to know. Send a signal. This is only relevant to objectives. So as you saw on one of my objective cards, send the signal is one of the requirements. I would spend 2 cards, and all I would do is, at that point I'm said to have said the signal. I can put a token on the signal space, and then I don't have to worry about it anymore. This room is of no use to me anymore other than searching it. Okay, so I spent my 2 cards to use reconnaissance to move here without a noise roll. What I am going to do now is use the engine room's action to check an engine. So I'm going to discard demolition and adrenaline as my 2 cards to check the engine. So in tabletop, you can do Shift Alt to see what the state of the engine is. I like to play with the top token being the active state of the engine. So I'm just going to pull the top token up, flip it, and it happens to be working, which is great because now I don't need to worry about fixing it. Okay, so moving on, I have 1 card left, and I think I'm going to end up. So I could have used duct tape, that's actually nice in hindsight that I checked instead of using duct tape, because the duct tape would have essentially just been 1 card and I could have looked and changed the state all in one go. But now I don't need to use duct tape, and I'll probably use it here because I only need to fix 1 more engine, so I still have it for that. Okay, I think I'm going to do the same thing as last time and pass with suppressive fire in hand to protect myself from a potential surprise attack, specifically by a larva. So we're going to move on to the event phase. So we move the time track. There are no intruders on the board. There's no fire to worry about. So we're going to draw an event card and resolve it. No aliens moving. Scent of prey. Place a noise marker in every corridor connected to a room containing a character with a slime marker, except corridors that already have noise. So I do have a slime marker. So I'm going to put one in this corridor as well as the technical corridor space, which is over here. Okay, hopefully I redraw the reconnaissance guard. Unlikely. But first we need to finish the event phase with the intruder bag development. So we're going to pull one, and it's the queen. So I've been getting pretty lucky with these because the queen is usually, you know, the worst symbol that you might think you'd see. If there was an encounter, the queen would show up in my room. But in the intruder bag development step, the queen goes back in the bag, and I'm just going to highlight it, or I'm just going to read the text here. Return the token to the bag. If there's a character in the nest, place the queen miniature there and resolve an encounter. If there are no characters in the nest, place one egg token in the nest. So because the nest isn't discovered, we're going to resolve that part about just laying an egg in the nest, and we're done. So we've avoided noise rolls in the intruder bag step, which is, for 3 goes, is really lucky. Okay, so we're going to draw our cards. So I'm out of draw cards. Oops, flip, shuffle. This is my new draw pile. Okay. All right. So I got like 3 different search options here in a room that I cannot search. So I'm going to end up probably spending some of these to carefully move. So you get to see a careful move example. Actually, I'm probably going to do just a normal move here and then carefully move to the engine. So let's spend the rest card, which is of no use to me now. I'm just going to do a standard movement and risk it for the biscuit. So only thing I can't roll here is a 1, but let's see what I've found first. So a storage room, and the storage room is like it's a room essentially you can unlimited search. So we still set the item counter to the number, and this room can still be searched with the search card as normal, and you would draw from the red deck and reduce the item counter by 1. Doing this room's room action, you spend 2 cards, and you can search from any color deck. So this is a really nice room to have found, but right now it's broken. So this is our first malfunction marker that we have to put on. And that just means, malfunction marker means that I cannot do the room's action. And in other cases, if there was a malfunction marker in this room, for example, it also means that the computer is not working as if it's not even there. In this case, not relevant here. So let's risk it for the biscuit like we talked about. 2. Okay. So we're going to be placing a noise marker there, which is ideal because I'm not going to want to be going that way anyway. And unfortunately what I'm seeing now is that the first room I found was the engine control room. In the engine control room you can actually check the state of all 3 engines in one go by doing this room's action. But I need to move and find the nest anyway, so at any rate, I'm moving, and I don't even need to carefully move there like I talked about. So I'm going to, let's see, should I waste time? Well, I can't even. Okay, so I'm going to spend 1 search in here. So there is 1 item in here that I can use the search card. When a room is broken, you can still search the room. So I'm going to use the search card. I'm going to set this to 0, and I'm going to draw from the red deck because I am in a red room. If I was using the room action for this room in particular, I could draw 2 from any deck. So let's see, extended mag, add 2 ammo to one of your energy weapons. From now on, this weapon's ammo capacity is +2. Or energy charge. Okay, so this is a rare item. I'm going to keep that because when I reload later, I get to reload it to a max of 6. So this is added to my gun. Alright, it's fine. I'm just going to leave it there. And I get +2. And I'm pretty sure that effect is immediate because there is no cost on this card. If you guys know the real ruling on that, let me know. But that's how I interpret it, because typically on other items, like you would have to, you know, there's a cost to it, but because there is no cost to this, I'm going to go ahead and say that it takes effect immediately. Kind of like as if you found a gun, right? It goes right in your hand and you can use it. So That was my search action, and now I'm going to move. Let's see, I want to keep suppressive fire. I'm going to move here. Normal movement, not risking it really, but I do want to do a normal move and do it for, okay, again, ideal. In general, you want to place noise in the direction you came from, because wherever you're moving, you want to be clear of noise. So my noise roll was, again, lucky there. So now I'm in another engine room. I'm going to use scavenging to use duct tape. So I'm using duct tape here, and on one of duct tape's options is to repair / break an engine in the engine room I'm in. So whenever you're using an item that says something like that, you can actually look at the status of both and swap. So I'm going to make it working, of course. And now I don't even have to worry about checking this engine, because I don't think there's any events in the game that change statuses of other engines. So I know 2 are working. I might pass by this room, but I have no interest in spending valuable cards to check or change it. Alright, I'm going to pass with suppressive fire in my hand yet again. So we're going to move the time track. We're in the event phase now. Move the time track. No intruders attacking. No fire damage to intruders. Resolve an event card. No aliens moving. Bulkheads open. Open all doors except destroyed doors. Wow, so I'm getting pretty lucky here to have not come close to having to spawn an alien. But let's see if karma catches up to me immediately. Okay, creeper. So again, I'm kind of lucky because I don't have to roll for noise. When you draw a creeper symbol, you replace the creeper with a breeder in the bag. I'm going to zoom in here just to show you guys so that you can see it from the rules yourself. So replace it with a breeder, and now we're into the new player phase. So drawing our 5 cards again. Alright, so because we're on a roll here for noise, I might consider moving carefully a lot just to like keep this train rolling. So let's see. Yeah, let's use interruption and adrenaline to move carefully into here. Okay, so when you move carefully, you get to choose the corridor. So it's a more expensive action. That's why I spent 2 cards as opposed to 1 like before for a normal movement. Spent 2 cards to carefully move. I'm going to place my noise here without making a noise roll. And there are, so this is solo mode, so it's cut that in half. So 1.5, and then round up, it goes to 2. So 2 items. And then there was a door that shuts behind me. Let's move it over so we can see this noise here. Okay, and we found evac section B. So this is where you can try to enter an escape pod. In this case, it's B, so I could enter this escape pod, see the B symbol here, if it was unlocked. So right now this room, because it's locked, is of really no use to me. There's a couple different ways escape pods can unlock. So like I mentioned before, if the self-destruct was active and it crossed this threshold, all escape pods unlock immediately. There's a room called the hatch that if you find it and use that room's action, you can manually unlock 1 escape pod. And the last way that escape pods can unlock is if any character dies. So if this was a multiplayer game and someone else died and I was continuing on to play, all escape pods unlock when that other character dies. Okay, moving on. So I did a careful movement. Now I think, so we're looking for the nest at this point. So I'm going to use reconnaissance to move to any neighboring room without making a noise roll. Discard basic repairs is my additional card for the cost. I'm going to move here. Alright, of course we get an interesting scenario here. So the way the game's FAQ, which is right here, describes it is that whenever you do a careful movement into a room and you get a danger symbol, when you carefully move, it effectively cancels the noise roll. And what this token is it's suggesting that this is an automatic noise roll result. And so in the example of careful movement, I canceled the noise roll result by carefully moving. I would expect that the same mechanic works for the reconnaissance card, staying kind of in line with the FAQ. Swear I'm not cheating. Leave it in the comments. You can call me a cheater or tell me how you think that this should be resolved. So I'm going to follow the FAQ or stay consistent with it. So there was 2 items in there, so we're playing solo, so there's only 1 item. And I get to cancel the danger result because I don't have to do a noise roll. And we found the monitoring room. Check 1 room and exploration token. Okay, so that's a nice room because I can kind of just sit in here and look for the nest before going to it, which is what I'm probably going to do. So I'm going to pass, and I'm going to move the time marker 1. No aliens are on the board, so no intruder attack, no fire damage to damage them. So event card. Nothing is moving. Short circuit. Place a malfunction marker on each yellow room with a computer. Remove this event from the game and reshuffle the events deck, including the discard pile. Okay, malfunction marker. Okay, so that's 1 here, 1 here. So this room has a computer, this room has a computer, they're both yellow. So that's the event. Now let's pull from the bag. Oh, it's the blank. Wow, getting really lucky with the bag. So when the blank is drawn, you put it back in the bag and you put an adult in the bag. And I'm going to zoom in on the card for you to see it for yourself for the blank token. All right, so that is it for that player phase. So we're on to the next event phase. So we're going to draw cards. Okay, so I got my 5 cards, and I am going to do what I said, which is I'm gonna try to search for this nest. So I'm going to search probably like the top half until I find it or don't find it, and then that tells me obviously that it is in the other half if I don't find it. So let's do rest and demolition to check 1 unexplored, check 1 room and its exploration token. Sometimes there's a lot more detail in this. I'm going to just double check that to make sure it's that simple. So you can look at 1. I have to look at place them back on the board. You don't have to tell the truth. Okay, so I know that the nest is in every game and it's labeled with a 1 on the back. And if my interest is to find the nest, I'm going to search in spots where there are rooms with a number 1 on its back. And in general, they're just all the ones on the outside of the board or on the perimeter of the board. The ones on the inner circle are labeled 2. I know that those cannot be the nests. So let's see, let's start here. Wow, first go. Okay, so that's the nest. Let's see the exploration token. Of course, a door was shut behind me, and I'm going to probably be coming from this way, which means it's going to force me to go into all of this noise that I left behind earlier in the game. So once I get this over here, now having that technical corridors item that I found earlier could have been nice, but I'm only 3 rooms away. When I get to this room, I'm going to want to have the demolition card or an item that can help me open that door so I can turn around and then hopefully leave noise in an optimal kind of pattern to walk back this way, because there's really no hope going back this way. Okay, so that's good to know. So we found the nest, and I don't have to waste any more time and cards looking for it in this room. Okay, so now, I mean, hey, this is essentially a free action to me. I thought I was about to search it again, or sorry, use the room action again, so now I am going to search it. So now that's that. Let's draw 2 red items. Okay, nice, 2 energy charges. Let's discard 1 of them. Obviously, easy choice. So I'm set for ammo for the foreseeable future too, so that's pretty nice. And then I'm going to use scavenging, because why not? I haven't used it yet. So this is reduce item counter by 1. You can perform this action even if it's already at 0. Draw 2 cards. Okay, so same thing, but I get to do it even though the counter is at 0. Okay, so I drew these 2. So let's see. Choose 1 neighboring room, take all intruders from neighboring rooms, even in combat, and move to this room. Okay, so it's like kind of a lure. I can lure aliens away from a room I'm trying to go to, or a grenade to do damage to them. I'm gonna keep the lure. Okay, I have no action cards left in hand. The only thing is in here is items, so I must pass. So we're going to move the time track. No intruders that can fight me, no fire to deal with. event card. Nothing's moving, damaging fire. Place a malfunction marker in each room with a fire marker. Place a fire marker in each room neighboring a room with a fire marker. Fire does not spread through closed doors or technical corridors. Wow, this must be one of the luckiest Nemesis games I've ever played because events haven't been hurting me either. So I get to skip this because there is no fire on the board. Now, this game is not as easy as it looks and things can escalate quickly, so I'm not out of the woods yet. Okay, so let's draw our 5 cards. Oh no, sorry, intruder bag. So last step of the event phase is the bag. Okay, our first adult in the intruder bag step. It had to come eventually. When you draw an adult, I'll zoom in on the card. Everyone performs a noise roll in order. So I'm going to do that. Silence. Okay, so I'm still slimed, which means I am treating this as a danger result. So I'm putting noise. There are no aliens adjacent to me. So because there are not, I'm going to put one in each corridor that does not already have one. So this is not summoning or doesn't trigger an encounter. There is one in the technical corridor spot, but it doesn't say it on the card here, but you don't place a noise where there already is noise. When you, I guess it's not relevant to that, but relevant to the danger result. Okay, so that's it for the event phase. We're going to draw our cards. Okay, nice. So I got reconnaissance, which helps me move without making noise. So we're going to use reconnaissance to move. Oh, okay, I'm going to keep demolition because we might need that to open that door later. So I'm going to move here without making a noise roll. And then I'm going to actually carefully move to kind of keep my path how I want it to be on my way back to hibernation. So I'm going to spend 2 cards to carefully move. I hate throwing away 2 search cards, but it is what it is. I'm going to carefully move to this room and place my noise here because then when I come back this way, I don't want there to be a noise token here to come back here. However, I will need to eventually check the coordinates. So I know that the ship's going to take off, but I still don't know the coordinates. So let me actually change it to here because then my path could be to come back this way, around, up this way, and back around that way. Anyways, let's keep it going. Cabins. Okay, so I'm already slimed, so can't get double slimed, such is life. So I'm going to discard that. 2 items, already slimed. And I carefully moved, I already placed my noise. In the cabins, it's got a passive effect. When you end your turn in the cabins, at the start of the next round, you get to draw it to a maximum of 6 instead of 5. Okay, and I'm gonna do that and pass because I want to keep my demolition to destroy this door and come back this way, or at least kind of leave that as an available option for me. I might end up coming back this way, who knows. And then I'll get to draw up to a max of 6. So I'm going to pass. So now the time track, so now we're in the event phase, move the time track. Hibernation is now open. That's what happens when the time track moves across this threshold. Now you can actually hibernate. So if the time tracker had not passed this point yet, even if you're in this room, you completed your objective, you need to wait until this threshold is crossed. So hibernation is open for business. No aliens to attack, no fire to do any sort of damage to aliens. So let's see the event. Again, nothing's moving. Bulkheads open. Open all doors except for destroyed doors. So I'm pretty sure I placed a door somewhere. Here we go. Okay, easy peasy. Intruder bag development step. We got a larva. Okay, nice time to get lucky. So replace the larva with a adult and continue on. So I'm drawing up to a max of 6 now because I'm in the cabins. Okay, I'm going to do another careful movement. See, I might need this, so let's discard something that's completely irrelevant. Interruption. I'm going to carefully move to here. I'm going to place my noise behind me. Evac A. Whoa. Another broken room. So it's broken, and the item counter will set it to 1 because the items are reduced by half. Let's see, I have a search card, but I think I'm chilling on items right now. I have suppressive fire to kind of help me get out, so let us move into here using, I'm going to spend scavenging to do a normal movement here, which is the nest, as we know. I got my character under, okay. So there cannot be any items in the nest, nor can the nest ever be malfunctioning. So we don't, if the room was broken, we just ignore it. There are no items in the nest room ever. However, there are eggs in the nest, so that's important for our objective. So the room action when you're in the nest. So let me roll for noise, because I know you're all, I'm sure as before you guys are probably catching when I'm not rolling for noise. So I'm going to do that now, and I rolled a 1. Okay, nice. So that's for the noise roll. When you're in the nest, you can pick up an egg, and it can fill one of the hand slots. So both of mine are full. I only picked this up in the event that I might have found the lab and might have, been able to analyze it and just drop it, but I really don't care about this anymore. And when you have an item in your hand that you want to drop, you can just do that for free. It doesn't cost you an action or anything like that. So I'm going to need to do that. Whenever you do pick up an egg or destroy an egg, so there's some objectives that you need to destroy the nests. Each attempt at destroying an egg or picking one up, you need to roll for noise. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend 2 cards. Oh, I need to put the door up. Okay, I'm going to spend, so I have other means of making this alien to retreat, so I can afford to get rid of suppressive fire. Yeah, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to pick up an egg. So I'm going to drop the character corpse where I currently am. I'm going to take an egg from the nest. Oop, I don't want all the eggs. So now I got an egg in my hand, and we're almost ready for to complete our objective. We just got to make it to hibernation, or an escape pod. So it would be nice to get the pods open and use those without having to go out of the way to the cockpit and come back, just because it'll be a little bit more dangerous. We could of course take our chances that it's already set to Earth. Anyway, I picked up an egg, so I need to roll for noise. Alright, it's our first encounter, so I need to place it. I rolled a 2, so I would have to put one here, but there's already one here. So when you resolve an encounter, you do it in these steps. You remove all noise from the corridor, and then you draw a token from the bag and resolve an effect. So, or resolve the rest of the encounter. So the type of intruder that's joining me is an adult. So I'm going to pull an adult from the adult's bag. And then we're going to see if it surprise attacks me. So let's flip it over. So the number on the back is a 4, and you check that number against how many cards you have in hand. So if I had 4 cards or higher, I would be protected from this surprise attack. I unfortunately do not, so it surprise attacks me. So whenever you're pulling from an encounter, when you pull a token out for an encounter, you don't put it back in the bag, you put it in the pile. It says, kind of think of it like this alien just hopped out of the vents and now it's on the board, so he's, you wouldn't put him back in the vents. So we're going to put him in the pile. And we have to resolve a surprise attack. So this is our first intruder attack. So when you're getting attacked by an intruder, or when you're fighting them and doing damage to them, you resolve both effects using intruder attack cards. So in this case, we're resolving an effect of it attacking me. So we're going to pull the top card, and when an alien's attacking you, all you care about is the bottom part. When you're attacking it, essentially every time you do damage, you would check against, there's usually a number in there, so let's flip a different one. I'm going to just reshuffle these. There's usually a number in the top left. So in this case, a 5. Let's say I did 2 damage to this guy on my next turn. Then every time you do damage, you flip an intruder attack card, and you would only look at this top left number when you're doing damage. So 2 damage is not enough to kill this alien on this go. Next time I shoot at it, for example, or melee it, if I do 2 more damage, then that would be a total of 4 damage on that alien, and each time you do damage, you need to draw a new card. So that's kind of the game's way of representing the alien's endurance. You never really know its HP. You have to check the effect of each hit you do after each time you do damage. So in this example I'm making up on the fly, let's say I had 4 damage, we flip. Okay, so in this case I would have killed it because it's more than the number. It's higher than or equal to is another scenario where you would have killed it. If this number was a 4, it would have died. So we don't care about that blood symbol right now because we're the ones getting attacked. And so this was the card that was drawn for this. I'm just going to reshuffle. So we have to resolve the bottom part based on the symbols on here. So the alien attacking us is an adult. So we have to check the symbols, and the adult symbol is on here. If the adult symbol was not on here, then that alien's attack misses us. But unfortunately, this hits us, so we resolve it. The character suffers 2 light wounds and gets 1 contamination card. So I'm going to draw a contamination card into my discard pile, and then I'm going to place a status marker on the 2 light wound space. And essentially this is like a progressive track for accumulating your wounds. So if I had 1 light wound and gained 1 light wound, I would move it down the track to be at 2 light wounds. This attack did 2 light wounds to me right off the bat, so I'm just going to set it to 2 light wounds. If you ever accumulate a 3rd light wound, then that becomes a serious wound. So you would remove this in that scenario and then draw a serious wound from the serious wound deck. And these always have an effect that is a debuff to you until you heal it, or until you dress it or heal it. And you can use green item cards to do that. So I'm going to reset it back. There are other game effects that deal you serious wounds just right off, without accumulating light wounds prior to it becoming a serious wound. Like there's a card in the Intruder attack deck called the Bite card, which just gives you a serious wound. And you can, when you die in this game from your wounds, essentially you will die if you ever accumulate more than 3 serious wounds. Any damage beyond a 3rd serious wound will kill you. So if I've accumulated 3 serious wounds and I have no light wounds, if I even take a light wound or a serious wound, of course, after having already taken 3 serious wounds, I will die. So if you have only 3 serious wounds and that's it, you are still not dead. Okay, so let's move on with the game. I resolved the surprise attack here from picking up an egg. So for my last action, I'm going to use, so because I know in the event phase that this alien will attack me if it's still in my room, I'm going to try and make it retreat. So when I use the fire extinguisher, that's one way I can try to make it retreat. I won't know which direction it's going to run because I need to pull an event card and check what number is on it to see which direction it runs. And there's a closed door here, which means that it could run into this closed door and end up staying in the room with me. When an alien runs into a closed door, it destroys the door and stays in the room. So the better alternative for me will be to use the decoy because I get to choose what room it's going to escape to or run away to. Choose one neighboring room, take all intruders from neighboring rooms, even in combat, and move to this room. Each intruder in combat performs 1 attack before leaving its room. Okay, so that's actually, the last part of this card kind of sucks because it's guaranteed to attack me. Ah, geez. Okay, well, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to discard our last card to use the decoy. So I'm essentially going to choose this room to be my decoy room. And this alien is drawn to it. However, it attacks me before it leaves. So let's see what it does. Okay, nice, perfect. It misses me because there is not an adult symbol here. Again, we do not care about the blood symbol because we are not attacking it. Alright, was that it for the card? Yes, okay. So that couldn't have worked out better. And now I must pass. Hopefully it doesn't move back to me in the event phase. That would royally suck. Alright, so move time track. No intruders. It's not in the same room as me, so no intruder attack. There's no fires in this room with the intruder, so nothing to worry about there. Pull a card. Okay, so the adult symbol is not up here, which means this adult is staying where it's at. Nest. If the nest room is explored, place a noise marker in each corridor that is connected to the nest. Do not place a noise marker if one is already present. Okay, well, I thought that was going to be bad, but noise is okay. I can deal with noise. Oh shoot, I got rid of my demolition card. Whoopsie. That's okay. Well, maybe we'll draw here. We've been lucky so far, right? Okay. So that was the event card. Still need to do the intruder bag. Oops, let's go back. Okay, adults, so everybody rolls for noise. And of course, right after the event, that added noise in every corridor. So now we're getting unlucky, and you're going to see how fast things can escalate in this game. So we rolled a 2. So we're getting yet another encounter. Let's see what we get. It is an adult with a 3 on the back. So we're going to put an adult in my room. It does surprise attack me because I do not have 3 cards. So we're going to resolve the surprise attack. And there it is, the bite card. If the character has 2 serious wounds, they die. If not, they suffer 1 serious wound. So we're going to grab a serious wound. And it is the hand serious wound. The cost of all your item actions is increased by 1. Okay, not a big deal. Alright, so that was the intruder bag development step. So now we're going to draw our 5 cards. We're in the new player phase. Ha, I did get demolition. Very nice. Okay, so demolition is a card that you can use when you're in combat. So I didn't touch on that before. On every card, there's going to be a symbol on the top right that's either a gun with an X on it, or no symbol. If it has a gun symbol on it, it means that the action must be done while you're in combat. If it has a gun with a gun with an X on it, it means that it cannot be done when you're in combat. And if there is no symbol, it means it can be done regardless of combat. So I am going to use demolition to destroy this door before I forget. So to destroy doors, you can set the state, change the state to represent a destroyed door. If you ever just open a door, you would just remove the door from the board. In this case, destroyed doors are relevant because they can never be closed again. So let's say I got out of this room and wanted to shut the door behind me to prevent this alien from following me. I can't do that because the door is destroyed. Alright, so now with the door destroyed, it's time to either run or shoot this thing. Or I can just make it run away with my fire extinguisher, but again, I don't know what direction it's going to run to. So I'm going to actually try and shoot it. I do have an adrenaline card here. Perform a shoot action and draw an action card. I'm going to try to get rid of an alien. I hope I have enough time to still make it to the cockpit, change the coordinates, and head back to hibernation. That's the only thing I'm kind of sussing about wasting time fighting this thing. But for the sake of the video, I'll take one for the squad here, and I'll shoot just so that we can show how a shoot action is resolved. So I'm going to discard this card, and it says I get to draw an action card when I do so. And I'm performing a shoot action. When you do a shoot action, you need to discard your ammo by 1, or reduce your ammo by 1. On tabletop, you can left click to increase and right click to decrease. So decrease, reduce by 1, and then you get to roll the combat die. Okay, so I rolled a double target symbol, which means I do 2 damage to it. Let's see if I can rotate this so I can show the other results. No, unfortunately not, but there's other symbols on the die. For example, if I zoom in, you can see there's creeper symbols on here, which means that if it is a creeper or a larva, it hits. There's an adult for 1 damage. If there's an adult symbol on here, that if you roll the adult symbol and you're fighting an adult, it does 1 damage. There's a single target, which means you do 1 damage regardless of the alien type. And then I happen to roll the double target, which means I'm doing 2 damage regardless of the alien type. And then there's a blank, which is the worst roll. It means you miss your shot no matter what. So I'm doing 2 damage, so I'm going to increase this by 2, and then I'm going to check the effects. Let's roll this over. It's a 4. So now on this, because we're doing damage to it, we're ignoring the bottom half, and we only care about the top half. So it's a 4, so it is not dead, because I would have needed to have done or it would need to have 4 damage on it to be considered dead. Alright, yeah, screw it, let's shoot it again. 1. Okay, a single target hit, which means it is a hit. Check the effect. Of 5, it's still not dead. Let's kill this thing. One more time. Okay, so that is a miss result. So I do not do any damage. We're gonna shoot it one more. We're just gonna keep shooting it till it's dead. I'm committed at this point. Okay, single hit again. Another 5, getting really, really unlucky here. So we're gonna shoot it again. And that's a miss result. Okay, so I've run out of cards, so I need to pass and resolve the event phase. So we're gonna move the time track. This intruder attacks me, so now we're looking at only the bottom half. So got lucky, only the queen would have hit on this attack, and it would have been devastating. If it was the queen, it would have killed me, but it's an adult in our room, so the attack misses. There is no fire damaging aliens, so we're skipping that step. Event step. Alright, we're skipping the movement part because the adult symbol is not up here and there are only adults on the board. Hunt. Move every adult not in combat to a neighboring room with a character if possible. If there are several rooms to choose from. Okay, so I screwed myself over by staying in this room for way longer than I should have. But we're gonna end this video like a boss if we have to. So there's that, and now we do the intruder bag development. It is a breeder, so in this case it's the same thing as an adult. Everyone would roll for noise, and that's only done if you're not in combat. And I think that isn't specified on this card. It is in the rule book. If you're already in combat, you do not perform a noise roll. So I am not performing a noise roll here. Alright, so let's move on to the player phase. So we're going to draw our new set of 5 cards. And you can see that I've drawn a contamination card. So you remember whenever you draw a contamination card, or when I drew one before, it goes into my discard pile. Eventually they will be drawn into your hand, and unfortunately these are like dead weight. They cannot be spent to perform any actions. So because I have a contamination card, I see, like if I try to do this example, I'll be wasting too much time and probably have no chance. I can't even do the rest action when I'm in combat anyway, but essentially you can get rid of these cards by, for example, a rest card, or there's some rooms where you can do this procedure. You can take the contamination card, you can place it on the scanner, and it'll tell you if it's infected or not. And if it's infected, you need to put a larva on your character board like we talked about before. Again, if you ever have to put a second larva on your character board, your character dies. If you ever scan a card in and is not infected, you get to, if you're doing a rest action or another room action that does this procedure, then you get to get rid of it if it's not infected and remove it from the game entirely, freeing up space in your future hands or the current hand. Okay, so we have some unfinished business with this this near dead alien. So let's try to kill the near dead one. Okay, so we would typically choose your target. I am choosing the weak one, so let's see. Okay, we killed it. So 3 damage would have been enough. It has 5, so we're going to put it back in its bag. And we're going to replace it with a carcass object. This is the third type of heavy object that has shown up in this game that you can carry and analyze in the lab or need it for certain objectives. Okay, so killed one alien, and I'm going to make this other one retreat. So I'm going to spend, well actually no, I'm going to use suppressive fire. Oh well, shoot. I'm out of ammo. Suppressive fire, I need to discard an ammo. So first I need to reload my gun using my energy charge. I'll zoom in on the card just to show you. Fully load ammo in one energy weapon, or open close a door. So I'm back up to 6, and then I'm going to use suppressive fire to move myself or one other chosen character to another room without triggering an intruder attack. Whenever you run from an alien, in normal circumstances, if I wasn't using suppressive fire, it attacks you on your way out. But the suppressive fire card lets me move away, essentially doing my escape action without doing the intruder attack part. And just like in all other intruder attack forms, you would draw and resolve an intruder attack card and see if it hits you. Okay, so I need to discard my ammo. And we are out of there with our egg, so that's good. Alright, and now the only card I have left is the Reconnaissance card, which I could spend to do a normal movement. I do like the thought of using this card to move without performing a noise roll. And the room I'm moving to has 2 of 4 corridors already with noise. I think I could risk it. You know what? No, I'm gonna pass. And when you do pass, you may also choose to discard any amount of cards from your hand. So I'm going to choose to discard my contamination card. I'm going to keep the the reconnaissance card and pass. So we move the time track. No intruders attacking me. No fire hitting intruders. Event card. Adults are moving through corridor 2. So is this thing following me? Of course it is. So this thing followed me, but it does not do a surprise attack or attack me when it follows. It simply enters my room, which means I'm going to need to deal with it yet again. And then we resolve the effect. Place a malfunction marker in the explored room with the lowest room number, then shuffle this card back into the events deck. That's going to be the cockpit. It is room number 1. And then it said shuffle this card back into the events deck. So let me know in the comments if I'm doing this right. It doesn't say including the discard pile. Usually I do shuffle the discard pile here. So I'm just going to stay consistent with how I've always done it, but this could be wrong, and feel free to let me know. Alright, so that was the event. Now intruder bag step. It is an adult, which means everybody rolls for noise if they're not in combat. So I am in combat, so I don't have to roll for noise. Alright, that's the end of that event phase. So we're going to shuffle and draw cards. Okay, I didn't get that contamination card again, so that's good. Oh, yikes. So I used my energy charge, and I have a hand serious wounds, which means all my actions are increased by 1. So I did have a card that I kept. I kept reconnaissance. I needed to spend an extra card when I used energy charge, so I'm going to do that now. This should have been shuffled back into the deck. Oh wait, no, this should have been shuffled back into the deck, and everything would have been shuffled. I'm going to shuffle and see if maybe I redraw. I still could have chosen to discard my contamination, being that it was my last card, and no other game effects would have been, nothing would have changed anyways, so we're going to get a pass on that one and still spend the extra cost that I would have needed to do. Just wanted to show that as a reminder of how serious wounds work. They do affect you in pretty bad ways. Okay, so it's a new round. I now have an alien with me again, and I managed to draw the suppressive fire card again, which is great. So I'm going to use that again to run away from this alien without doing an attack on the way out. So I discarded my ammo. However, you still have to roll for noise when using this card, so let's do that. It is a 1. Huzzah, no encounter. We got away, taking a break from this alien nonsense. Okay, so now I don't think I can waste any time doing anything but getting to the cockpit. I really don't even know if I have time to do that and get back to the hibernation. But we're going to go ahead and hope that we do. So I'm just going to move here, standard move, not move carefully. Let's see what we got. Ooh, we have the hatch. That's a... It is good to find, but it's the kind of a same scenario. If I manually unlock a pod, I need to somehow get back here or here, which has an alien in it, to even use the pod. So it's broken anyways, but it's nice to at least know that it exists maybe in the future. So there was a 2 on there, so it's set to 1 for solo mode. It is broken, and let's roll. Okay, it is a 4. put a noise here. I'm going to move carefully for 2 cards into this room. Armory with a silence. So this one's interesting because I moved carefully. Like I said before for the FAQ, when you move carefully it cancels a noise roll, and silence exploration token is an automatic noise roll result. So if I'm going to stay consistent with the FAQ, this would mean that I still need to place my noise, and so I'm going to do that even though we got the silence, which would have been great, but we're going to try to play as fair here as possible. So that was my careful movement. Oops, what was the item count on there? It was 1 item. So we are at 1 item. Okay, I'm hoping that my repairs card is going to be drawn next turn so I can fix the cockpit and then take care of what I need to take care of in there. So I am going to move there. Standard move. Let's roll for noise. 2 is, of course, an alien. So we're going to get rid of that and pull from the bag. Adult with a 4. So we're getting an adult here. I have less than 4 cards in my hand, of course, so it does attack me. And it's only got the creeper symbol on it, which means that this attack misses. So got lucky there. Okay, so that's the end of the player phase. So we're going to move the time track. Well, unfortunately, this intruder is now going to attack me again. We'll see if we get lucky again. Nope, but it is just a scratch. The character suffers 1 light wound and it gets a contamination card. I'm going to grab that contamination card. And look at that. Another light wound, which becomes a serious wound. So now I get a 2nd serious wound. And it's another hand serious wound. So these don't stack on top of each other, so it still only takes me 1 additional card. But the debuff is now harder to get rid of because I need to now dress and heal this twice. Or dress it, dress that kind of serious wound more than once to be rid of it. I'll double check this trait card because I don't think I've ever used it. Yep, I could have used it a couple times pretty recently, but we're in rush mode. Okay, I'm noticing that I still have my 2 objective cards. I probably just turned my brain off knowing that I was only going to be going for this one, but I should have discarded one when the first alien came on the board. So we're going to just stick to what we've been doing. I think there's a spot you discard them, yeah, so I'm going to discard it there. And like we've been committed to already, finish the game with an intruder rag object, which I have. So we're almost there. We just got to deal with what comes. So we did the intruder attack. There's no fire damage. Event card. Okay, there are only adults on the board, and they are not moving. Regeneration. Each intruder on the board heals 2 injuries, so they're both, I think, fully healed. So, all right, not a bad card to get. Intruder bag development. It is the queen. So in this case, I am not in the nest, or there's not a character in the nest. If there was a character in the nest, then the queen would show up in the nest. Because that does not apply, all that happens is that an egg is laid in the nest. Okay. New player phase. Of course, a contamination card. Okay. So I'm going to use 2 cards to... So a fire extinguisher normally only costs 1 card, but because of my hand serious wound, I need to spend 2. So let's spend 2 cards to use my fire extinguisher. I deal 1... Use on 1 intruder. Oh, I don't deal any injuries, so I just use on the intruder and it retreats. So I'm spending this. And it's going to retreat. Whenever an alien retreats, you resolve that by pulling an event card and only looking at the number on the top right. So this alien's retreating through corridor 3, so it's heading this way. And it does not attack me on the way out. And now I'm going to spend 2 cards to check the coordinates. Damn, I probably could have used my motion scanner earlier too. That's fine. Oh no, I can't even check the coordinates because it is currently broken. Okay, so honestly, it's probably my best bet to just bank on this coordinate being already set to Earth, because I kind of botched a couple things on my way here. So I'm going to do my reconnaissance card here to move here without making a noise roll, and then I'm going to pass, and I'm going to discard my contamination card in the process. So we're going to move the time track, no intruders attacking me, no fire damage to intruders, resolve an event card, no adults moving, consuming fire, set the item counter to 0 in each room with a fire marker, place a fire marker in each room neighboring a room with a fire marker. Okay, so we get to skip this because there is no fire on the board. Intruder bag development, it is an adult, everybody rolls for noise. Of course, silence, which means danger for me, because I'm still slimed. Getting rid of slime, there's a room called the shower room that you can get rid of slime. There is a item called clothes that you can get rid of slime. Okay, so that was the intruder bag development step, so we're in the new player phase, so we're going to draw our cards. By the way, R is to shuffle. Okay. Alright, let's see what this motion scanner, because we're going to need this on the way back. Discard one action card from your hand to re-roll the result of your noise roll, only once per noise roll. Okay. So I can afford to move carefully. Well, I got reconnaissance. I might need to use reconnaissance to get to here to keep it free of noise as I can. Okay, so we're gonna do a normal move into here, risk it for the biscuit, and use the motion scanner if I need to. 2, okay, perfect. Alright, and then I'm gonna move again. So I didn't even get to check the coordinates. We're just gonna hope that we're already heading to Earth and that I can finish this game with the intruder egg object. 2 engines are working, so I don't think it's a 1 in 4 chance just based on how many cards exist and the statistics on each card, but I think it's the best shot we have because I don't think I could have afforded to wait to draw my repairs card, which would have let me fix this room, then check the coordinates, then change them if I needed to, then head back. So it is what it is. Now we're gonna move here. Is the airlock control, so 3 items, we're setting it to 2 for solo mode. It is broken. And we're doing our noise roll. It is a 4. Okay, that's nice because it's not adding noise into here. And then we're going to use reconnaissance to get into the hibernatorium without making a noise roll. And then I'm going to pass, getting rid of my contamination card. And so we're in the event phase. Move time track, no intruders attacking, no fire damage, event card. Okay, aliens are finally moving as part of the event here. So adults are moving through corridor number 3. So this guy goes here, and this guy goes here. And those are the only 2 intruders on the board. Yes, okay. Now we resolve the effect. Scent of prey. Place a noise marker in every corridor connected to a room containing a character with a slime marker, except corridors that already have noise markers. So that sucks. The whole point of me moving here with trying to save reconnaissance was that, because every time you try to use the hibernation chamber, you have to roll for noise, and if you fail, or if your noise roll makes you do an encounter, then you don't successfully enter the hibernation room, and you need to deal with the alien before trying again. So unfortunately, that was a bad event card to draw here, which could unfortunately double up in unluckiness depending on what happens with the bag step here. So that was slime, right? Okay, yep, and I'm still slime. So let's do the intruder bag development step. And it's roll for noise, because why wouldn't it be? So we're gonna roll a 3. So of course this is full of noise. So we'll definitely be summoning an alien. And let's pull from the bag and see what we get. Oh my god. Okay, so we get the queen. That's the one I wanted to deal with to end the game here. Okay, oh, the queen has a 4 on the back, I believe. So, yep, it does attack me. I don't have any cards in hand. How funny would it be if this is the tail attack? It's not the tail attack, but it is a bite. So, oh, but I have 2 serious wounds. Wow, okay, so I'm dead. Well, we came kind of close, I suppose. I know I messed up a few things along the way. This was not my optimal game. I was trying to focus more on teaching in the video itself, but feel free to flame in the comments. So the way this card works is if I already have 2 serious wounds, I just instantly die. And I definitely do. So I'll go over, what could have happened. Let's say, I drew the blank token or something. When you try to use the hibernation room, you spend 2 cards to use the room's action, and you would roll for noise. If you do not cause an encounter to happen, then you essentially just take your character off the board. You're safe from any further game effects other than the ship exploding, of course, in which case you would die with the ship. If this time track moved to the end spot and you were in hibernation, you survived from the G-force, and we would need to check the coordinates card. So we already know that these 2 engines are working. Let's see what this one was. Oh, all 3 was working. How nice. Let's see. How shameful would it be if this is actually set to Earth like we thought? Okay. Earth was A. So even if I did hibernate successfully, I would have died because we are currently heading to deep space, which means I would have died. If at the end of the game you had survived, like if this was Earth, I did make it into hibernation, then I mentioned earlier in the video that there's a last stand mechanic, and I'll just explain that now. So, like I said, if I did survive, you're not quite out of the woods yet if you have any contamination cards or a larva on your character board. So if you have a larva on your character board, then what you would need to do is essentially shuffle your whole deck and draw the top 4 cards. If any of them are contamination cards, you die. So finishing the game with a larva on your board is a big risk. If you do not have a larva on your character board, then what you first would do is find all contamination cards in your deck and scan them. So this card is clear, and essentially if any of them are infected, we repeat the procedure I said before. So we're just going to check and see if this would have killed me in the end anyway. I think I have one more if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so in this case mine were both clear, and since they're both clear, then I don't need to do that, draw 4, shuffle the deck, draw 4 cards, and if any of them are contaminated, I die. That would only happen if one of these was infected. Then you would add a larva to your character board and then default back to the first part, which is shuffle your deck, including all contamination cards, draw the top 4 cards. If any of them are contamination cards, infected or not, you die. Alright, well that was a fun game of Nemesis. I think, despite losing, you got to see what a full playthrough might look like despite not having the most optimal gameplay choices. I am sorry about that for any veterans out there watching and shaking their heads at me. If you are a veteran or a new player that you think this game would interest you, I'm going to put a link up on the screen here for my Discord server, as well as my Twitch channel. Feel free to join the Discord server. It's a kind of a small community right now, but looking to grow. Right now I am hosting a Nemesis giveaway contest. So head over to the channel, check out the giveaways page, and see if that's something you'd be interested in. It's everything that's required of you to enter is free, and there are prizes that you could win. It's essentially going to be like a gauntlet style tournament where me and 4 other people are going to play a bunch of games of Nemesis, not all on the same night, but the person with the most wins at the end wins the entire event. So hope to see you in the Discord server. Hope to see you back for any YouTube videos. Like, comment, and subscribe if this video is something that you'd be, if you'd be interested in seeing anything more like this. I plan on doing other expansions for Nemesis, doing a solo playthrough like this or with friends, so that I feel like this is the best way to learn how to play the game is by actually playing through it. So thanks again. Have a good one.